Welcome everybody. My name is Matt Worsdall and I'm a principal consultant here at Arcadia Consulting. I'm delighted to spend a little bit of time today talking to you about one of our key topics around growth mindset. So growth mindset is all about what makes people successful. Success as a concept over the years has been debated around what is it, what are the ingredients that create success. Here at Arcadia, we're going to be positioning the view that actually a lot of what makes people successful comes down to the mindset that they choose to adopt. So throughout this video, we're going to talk you through what is a little bit around mindset. So what do we mean when we talk about mindset? The difference between a growth and a fixed mindset, which is a critical topic in understanding how a growth mindset may lead to one course of action and a fixed mindset may lead to another course of action, and identifying the positives and negatives within those two things. We're also going to look a little bit around inner dialogue and self-talk. So when we think about mindset, one of the best ways of understanding our mindset and becoming self-aware is to listen to the internal voice that plays through our heads. So everybody has a voice in their head, and if you listen to that voice, it will tell you a lot about how you think about yourself and indeed the world around you. But not only that, you also have the power to change that voice. So if that voice is not helping you and not serving you in the way that you would like it to, by changing the inner dialogue, will change the course of actions you take and therefore change the results that you get. So we're going to be looking a little bit around inner dialogue and what that does for our mindset and what that does for the course of actions we take. We're also going to be looking a little bit around motivation. All right, so all of this stuff, growth mindset, self-talk, inner dialogue, all relates to motivation. How motivated are we to achieve the things we want to achieve? Talked at the beginning about success. So success is really relative to the goals we set. So we're going to think about goals. We're going to focus on the process. We're going to think about the language we use, and we're going to think about how we can use failure to help us learn and grow and develop. And finally, we're going to have a little look around why growth mindset is really, really important to business. So before we get into thinking about the definitions of growth and fixed mindset, I want us to think a little bit more generally around what do we mean by mindset. So mindset really is about the quality and the patterns of thinking that drive the behaviors and the actions we take that in turn give us the results that we get. So one of the best ways of thinking about mindset is to visualize an iceberg. We use the iceberg model with many of our clients to help us set out what we mean by mindset. So if you think about a physical iceberg, what you'd see on an iceberg is you'd see a small piece of ice across the top of the surface of the water. Typically, it's quite small, and typically it contains the behaviors and the results that people get. All right, so it's what's visible. When we look at our colleagues, when we look around the room, when we look around the world, the tip of the iceberg represents what we can see. All right, but that's actually a small portion of what's really, really going on. What's going on beneath the surface, so the big, considerable piece of ice beneath the surface, contains people's values, their beliefs, their emotions, their mindsets. And these are the things that drive what we see on top. So it's really important that when we understand ourselves and understand our mindset, that if we can understand what's driving our behavior, that's what's getting us our result. If we want different or better results, we need to think about what sits beneath the surface. Okay, so what sits beneath the surface is really about our beliefs. What do we believe about ourselves and the world around us? And what do these beliefs do to the quality of the action we take? So very simply, if we believe that we can do something, we're more likely to take action. This then becomes self-fulfilling, and indeed, we take the action, we get the result, and then we confirm the belief. Similarly, if we think we can't do something, or something is impossible or too difficult, we're either likely to approach a challenge with a level of anxiety and fear, which means we're unlikely to perform at our best, or we may take no action at all. And actually, by not taking action is still an action. All right, so that inaction can also drive a behavior, which is effectively doing nothing, and that also drives a result. So when we think about mindset today, I want everything we do to be played through the iceberg. So whether it's a limiting belief, whether it's a thought you have, whether it's a piece of inner dialogue, just start playing it through and asking yourself the question, what would that thought or feeling, what would that do in terms of the actions I take? Is that belief going to take me towards taking a positive and resourceful action? Or is it likely to push me towards a less resourceful path? So within mindset, we have two types of mindset. And these were identified by Carol Dweck in her book, Mindset. First one is what she called the fixed mindset. Okay, and this is really, fixed mindset is all about the belief that our qualities, our talents, the things that make us who we are fixed. All right, the clue is in the question, the clue is in the title. Fixed mindset is fixed. So typically what we're really saying is people's talents, intelligence, their abilities, if you like, are kind of given at birth. So some people are lucky, if you like, and are given talent and born with the ability to do things, and others are not. All right, so fixed mindset, not necessarily bad, unless, of course, you're somebody who believes that you're one of the unlucky ones. All right, so you can have a fixed mindset and still be successful, because you can have a belief that the reason you're successful is because it was kind of innate and God-given, if you like. All right, so not really important not to confuse fixed mindset with failure necessarily, or not being able to do things. You can have a fixed mindset and go very far through life. It's really the belief as to why are you successful that counts. The growth mindset, on the other hand, is all about a belief that our qualities, our abilities, our talents can grow. Right, we can grow them through hard work and effort. And that's the really important part, hard work and effort. When people talk about growth mindset, sometimes that's something that gets missed. The contingencies, you have to put in the effort. All right, so with practice, hard work, effort, dedication, you can take yourself from one place and build to another. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit around how that plays out in the world when we're learning and doing things. So with the fixed mindset, again, as I said a moment ago, with a fixed mindset, you can go through life being relatively successful. Problem is, when something goes wrong and you do hit a point of failure, or you hit a wall and something goes wrong and you fail, having a fixed mindset is very, very unhelpful, because a fixed mindset will tell you really that you've run out of steam. All right, the reason I've been successful all my life is because I'm talented and I'm clever. Now I've failed, therefore I'm no longer talented and clever. All right, so fixed mindset's okay until it's not. The growth mindset, however, tells us that as we go through life, the reason we're successful is about the process. It's about the hard work we put in. It's about the reason I've been successful at my work, at school, or whatever it might be. It's not just down to what I've already got. It's about what I've put in. So it gives us this much better, more empowered view of ourselves and our ability to kind of own our result. The harder we work, the more successful we're likely to be. Okay, so I want to address a couple of questions which we get asked a lot on the topic of growth mindset. And I think hopefully they're really, in answering these questions, it's really useful in positioning this and really making it tangible and accessible for you to go away and start putting into practice. So one of the first questions we always get asked is, do you have a fixed or a growth mindset? All right, and the answer is everybody has both. So no one has either a fixed or growth mindset. It's a variable scale, and based on the situations that individuals find themselves in, will elicit either a growth mindset or fixed mindset response. The other layer to this, of course, is that fixed mindset or growth mindset response is actually a choice. Okay, now that choice may not always feel obvious, and sometimes we default to a position that may be unhelpful, but actually we are empowered to change that result and change that voice and change that mindset, change that response. And we're going to talk a little bit in a moment about how we do that. So the first question is, do you have a fixed or growth mindset? The answer is everybody has both. In her book, Carol Dweck identified 6 triggers. Right? These are 6 situations or 6 circumstances, if you like, that would promote either a fixed or growth mindset response. Now, there's probably more than 6, and you could probably think of more than 6. But for the purposes of today, we're going to think about these 6. So the first one is all about challenges. Okay, so when faced with a challenge, people will often adopt a fixed mindset or growth mindset response to the challenge. With a fixed mindset, we tend to set ourselves small, potentially easy goals, easy challenges that we say are challenges, but really we know we're going to achieve them. Versus the growth mindset, we set ourselves up for potential failure. We set ourselves up for goals and big challenges that we may not achieve. All right, so that's the first one, challenges. Second one is obstacles. All right, so we've set ourselves a challenge, we're kind of on our way, and then something comes along and knocks us off course. In that moment, do we give up? With a fixed mindset, yes, we probably do. Versus the growth mindset, we keep going, we push on, and we find a way through. All right, we use that obstacle, that challenge, that failure as a learning experience to navigate a new path. All right, again, in the growth mindset, we are seeking alternatives, we're seeking a better way. Whereas the fixed mindset, we're more likely to give up. Third trigger is all about effort. So the extent to which we're willing to make effort. All right, so again, it links a little bit back to challenges and obstacles. Do we set ourselves goals and challenges and tasks where we know that the effort required of us is going to be quite minimal? If the answer to that question is yes, then that may indicate more of a fixed mindset tendency. Versus, do we set ourselves and embark on challenges and embark on activities where we know we're going to have to make lots of effort? All right, again, do we accept effort as being a natural and exciting part of the process? Or actually, if something's too difficult, it may put us off. Again, if you're put off by the fact you've got to make some effort, may indicate more of a fixed mindset. Fourth trigger is all about skills. All right, so this is the extent to which we believe we know everything we need to know. So in a fixed mindset, we may be at a certain point in our careers. People who are watching this may recognize people like this in their organization. They've hit a certain point and they've kind of think, you know, I know it all. I've done my schooling. I now want to kick back and kind of take the rewards. All right, that would be more of a fixed mindset, believing that they've kind of learned everything they needed to know. They've learned the skills and we're now in a position to kind of almost stop learning. Versus the growth mindset, where we accept that actually learning new skills is an integral part of development at any level. So no matter how senior we are, no matter how much experience we've got, we live in a world which is changing. So really, really important all the time that we're learning new skills and getting across new technology, being innovative and always learning and finding value and fun in that process. The next one is all about criticism and feedback. And this is all about the extent to which when we get criticized or get some feedback, do we take that personally? Do we reject it? Do we not want to hear it? Do we shut it down? In a fixed mindset, we're likely to do all of those things. Versus the growth mindset, where we embrace feedback as fuel. All right, so if it's a failure, it doesn't make you a failure. It just means you've done something which you can learn from and you can change it and do something differently. And the final one is all about the success of others. So in a fixed mindset, we're likely to be resentful, jealous, and really not look at other people in a positive way when they have success. All right, it's not a great place to be in with the fixed mindset around the success of other people. It can drive, you know, unhelpful and kind of toxic feelings. Versus, how do we look at the success of others and learn from it? All right, we always talk about successful people leaving clues. Successful people do leave clues. We can learn from those clues and we can model their behavior. Okay, in Arcadia, we talk about modeling excellence. It's one of our core values. It's around looking at what people do, make them successful and copying a little bit of that ourselves. The second question we get asked is, well, should I adopt a growth mindset about everything? You know, there's a lot of, I guess, in the narrative, in the book, that Carol Dweck wrote around mindset, there's a lot of push towards growth mindset almost being the optimum state, all right, and fixed mindset being very suboptimal, growth mindset being very optimal. My view on this is that it depends. I would say you cannot adopt a growth mindset about everything simply because there is not enough time and hours in the day. One of the key components of growth mindset is about effort and hard work. All right, and you can't apply effort and hard work to everything. Right, there'll be things in your life that don't really matter to you. There'll be things in your job, there'll be tasks within your organization that you don't need to take responsibility for. You know, so if you're not working in the finance team, I would say you don't need to really apply a growth mindset to your ability to do accounts. It's not within your job role. Now, if you want to do that, and that's a meaningful, inspiring goal, then indeed adopt a growth mindset in order to get better. But there is no pressure to adopt a growth mindset, in my view, about everything, right? Because there's simply not enough time and it becomes inefficient. So the first thing we need to do is think about what's important to us. Where do I want to push my growth mindset? Where do I want to learn and grow and develop? Identify some of those areas and apply a growth mindset to those. So one of the questions we also get asked is around, how do I know whether I have a fixed or a growth mindset? How do I know? Probably one of the easiest ways to know is just to listen. All right, and by that I mean listen to your inner dialogue. So we talked at the beginning of the video around the power of self-talk and inner dialogue. And really this is all about that. It's about listening to that voice in your head and what that voice in your head tells you about yourself, how you feel about yourself, what you believe about yourself, whether that's helpful or unhelpful, and indeed what's that voice saying about the world around you. Now, typically when you're listening out in the fixed mindset, you're listening for language such as, I can't do it, it's too difficult, I'm no good at this, I'll never be able to do this, my colleagues are so much better than me, I'm not clever enough. These are very typical fixed mindset language patterns. If we play those back through our iceberg model, which we talked about right at the beginning, what's that language of I can't likely to do for the action we take? Right, and I think we've already answered that. Okay, it's likely to cause no action or unhelpful action. Right, whereas if we can change the language to more growth mindset, then we're more likely to take more resourceful, more productive courses of action. Now, the growth mindset alternative doesn't have to just be the opposite. All right, so ideally what you would say is I can do this. All right, that would be the most optimum growth mindset statement. Some people find that challenging to be so bold and boastful maybe. So some people struggle with being as strong as saying I can. But there's always an alternative. You can always talk about, if I work hard, I will get better. If I challenge myself, I'm going to learn something. No matter what happens in the next 20 minutes when I get up and give this presentation, I'm going to learn something about who I am. I'm going to get some feedback. I'm going to have an opportunity to stand up in front of my colleagues. You know, there's always an upside. There's always a language pattern we can tell ourselves that will help us in the moment. One which is more useful and more empowering than the fixed mindset of I can't and I won't, and therefore I don't. All right, so the second thing is, how do I know whether I've got a fixed or growth mindset? Listen out for the inner dialogue. Listen for the inner language. What's it telling you about how you feel about yourself in that situation? And if you're hearing limiting fixed mindset language, then change the story. Change the story to more growth mindset, more helpful, more resourceful, and more supportive language. Okay, so I want to leave you now with 4 final top tips, if you like, 4 final things which relate to motivation. Right, the whole point of a growth mindset in a dialogue conversation is actually around how can it help motivate you to take action and do good things and achieve good things. All right, we are in the results-driven business here at Arcadia. Our mission is to help people achieve their best versions of themselves, to achieve the results they want to get. So I want to leave you with 4 kind of strategies, 4 actionable things that you can do to help activate your growth mindset and apply it to your life. Okay, so the first thing is about setting inspiring and meaningful goals. As we said at the beginning, don't need to have a growth mindset about everything, not enough hours in the day. Choose the things that matter to you, set goals that inspire you, that make you want to learn, that get you out of bed in the morning, and apply your growth mindset to those things. Second thing is focus on the process. All right, we can learn a lot from the process. People get very, very hung up on the result. All right, the results do matter, but the best way to control the result is to focus on the process and learn from the process. Here at Arcadia, we adopt a process called win, learn, change. All right, so we focus on what's working and what can we learn from that, what's not working and what can we learn from that, and then what can we do differently. All right, the change. So always be focusing on the process. When you're assessing your performance, don't just look at the result. All right, just because you got a bad result doesn't mean your process was entirely flawed. Similarly, just because you got a good result, it doesn't mean your process was flawless. All right, sometimes we win because the competition really mess up. All right, so don't just assume that because we've won that the process was perfect. Always focus on the process and learn from the process. Whether you win, whether you lose, take something from the process. Third thing, practice positive self-talk. So we've covered this already. Listen out for the language in your head, become self-aware, identify the voice and go, yes, that's fixed mindset language. I need to do something about that because it's not helping me. Change it into more growth mindset, more empowering language that will push you forward and help you feel confident to take on new tasks and new activities. And the fourth top tip is about embracing failure. All right. So when things go wrong, learn from them. Not only that, seek out an opportunity. When things go wrong, things don't go the way you wanted them to, there is definitely a learning experience in there to be had. So embrace the learning, embrace the failure, grow from it, change from it, do things differently, and it will give you a platform moving forward. And finally, I just want to talk very, very briefly about what we can do as leaders and in business as to how we can help, I guess, create and cultivate a growth mindset culture within our people and organizations. So yes, growth mindset largely relates to the beliefs we have about ourselves and our ability to learn and grow and change. Again, if we can put effort in, we can practice good disciplines, good habits, we can improve. All right, growth mindset. Hopefully we've kind of got to that point today in terms of explaining that. But the other thing we can do as leaders in business is create and cultivate environments where we promote growth mindset behavior. All right, so as leaders, we need to role model the behavior and adopt a growth mindset in ourselves. So if things go wrong and, as leaders, we mess up, that's fine. All right, adopt the growth mindset. How am I going to learn from it? How am I going to change? How am I going to improve the next time? But we can also instill growth mindset in our team members, instill them with a belief that it's okay to fail as long as we learn from it, as long as we change from it, as long as we take those experiences to make us bigger, stronger, better, or whatever it might be. All right, so it's really important that as leaders, we role model growth mindset within ourselves, but we instill a belief system, a culture of growth mindset within our organization, which gives people the courage to attempt new things, to try, where they're not in competition with each other, but instead they're in competition with themselves. All right, so one of the other key fundamental tacits of growth mindset is about comparison. And who are you comparing yourself to? And the answer is you should not be comparing yourself to other people, but you should be comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. All right, so am I, as an individual, getting better and stronger every single day? And if the answer is yes, then you're doing something right. So instilling that culture in organizations is super helpful. It will help people be more collaborative. It will help people be more innovative. And it will help people bring the best versions of themselves out into the world, into the company, and everybody gets the benefit of the kind of collective growth mindset culture. It also allows a culture of feedback, of honesty, of openness, transparency, and all of those good things. So in summary then, growth mindset is a really, really, really important ingredient to success. Mindset is a really important ingredient to success, but specifically that growth mindset. If we can all start activating and pressing our growth mindset onto things that matter, where they really count, we're going to have much more success and really, really increase the levels of performance we have. We do that through thinking about the language we use within our own heads, identifying that language. And if the language itself is not helpful, we can change that language and increase our ability to succeed by telling ourselves more resourceful, more empowering statements. And again, remember those top 4 tips for motivation, which is all about setting inspiring goals, focus on the process, adopt the positive self-talk, and embrace failure. If you'd like to find out more about any of these topics, please come onto our website and you'll find much more information about all our programs, all our content, and indeed much more about growth mindset. But until then, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon.